Imagine this for just a moment. You wake up tomorrow morning, and for the first time in your life, you no longer care about what anyone else thinks of you. Not your boss, not your friends, not even your family. Their opinions, their approval, their judgments. Picture yourself walking into the noise of the world, the traffic, the endless notifications, the voices pulling you in every direction, but your heart remains steady, untouched, like a calm lake in the middle of a storm. You don't bend, you don't break, and for once, you feel free. Now pause. Be honest with yourself. How often do you secretly live for someone else's approval? How many times have you swallowed your truth just to avoid being judged? If you're like most of us, the answer is too many. And that's where the hidden suffering begins. Buddhism teaches us something radically different. It whispers that real transformation doesn't come from louder applause or bigger crowds. It doesn't come from chasing validation, money, or the next shiny achievement. Instead, it comes from silence, from turning inward, from listening to the voice inside you that you've ignored for far too long. I know this may sound strange, maybe even uncomfortable. Silence in a world that rewards noise? But think about it. When was the last time you sat with yourself? No distractions, no phone, no background music, just you, breathing, being. Most people can't do it for more than a few minutes without panicking. But here's the truth. It's inside that uncomfortable silence, that life-changing clarity is born. This isn't theory. I've seen it in my own life, in friends who were drowning in anxiety, in people who seemed lost until they discovered what I'm about to share with you. Buddhism offers us not just philosophy, but a map. 13 timeless principles that can shift your life immediately. Not someday. Not after years of meditation on a mountain. Right now. Think of them as lanterns in the dark. Each one lights up a corner of your inner world that you've been blind to. And when you bring these lights together, something extraordinary happens. The fear of other people's opinions begins to dissolve. The constant need to control the uncontrollable loosens its grip. And the quiet, unshakable peace you've always been searching for, it finally becomes yours. And here's the paradox. The more you let go, the more alive you become. The less you fight the storm, the stronger you feel inside it. It's not about escaping life. It's about living it more fully than you ever imagined possible. So stay with me, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through these 13 Buddhist principles. Simple, powerful, unforgettable truths that can help you break free from the invisible chains you've been carrying for years. And I promise you this, if you listen, not just with your ears, but with your heart, one of these principles will land so deeply, it will shift the way you see everything. Are you ready to find out which one it is? Principles 1. Letting go of the illusion of control. Have you ever noticed how exhausting it is? Trying to control everything? We plan every detail. We fight against the unexpected. We cling to the hope that if we just push harder, life will finally bend to our will. But deep down, you know the truth it never does. I once spoke with a man who confessed that he spent years trying to control even the smallest things, his coworkers' opinions, his children's choices, the weather on the day of his vacation. And what did it bring him? Not peace, only anxiety. Only tension, only disappointment. And maybe you see yourself in him. Maybe you too have carried that invisible weight, believing that if you could just hold on tighter, life wouldn't fall. Principles. But here's the paradox. The tighter we grip, the more it slips through our fingers, like trying to hold water in your hands. Buddhism calls this the root of suffering, clinging to what is impermanent. We want certainty, but life is constant change. We want control, but nothing truly belongs to us. Not our bodies, not our possessions, not even the people we love most. At first, this sounds terrifying. But stay with me, because hidden inside this truth is a freedom so powerful it can change everything. When you accept impermanence, something shifts. Instead of wasting energy forcing the world to obey you, you begin to focus on what you can control. Your response, your inner state, your choice to meet life with resistance or with grace. That's where real strength is born. Think about it. Storms will come whether you want them or not. You can curse the sky, or you can learn to dance in the rain. Which one feels lighter? Which one feels free? This is not about giving up. It's about letting go. There's a difference. Giving up is despair. Letting go is wisdom. It's the courage to release what was never yours to begin with. And I wonder, what's one thing in your life right now that you're gripping so tightly it's causing you pain? A relationship? A goal? An expectation? If you feel safe to share, drop a simple number 1 inch the comments. That will be your way of saying, yes, I see the illusion. I'm ready to loosen my grip. Remember this, freedom doesn't come from controlling the storm. It comes from finding your calm inside it. And the moment you let go of control, life opens in ways you could never have planned. Principles 2. Learning to observe, not react. Have you ever had a moment where anger took over so quickly that only later you wondered, why did I say that? Why did I do that? It's almost like someone else was driving your body, your words, your actions. And in a way, that's true. Because in that moment, you weren't acting from clarity. You were reacting from habit. I remember a friend telling me about a fight with his teenage son. Instantly, my friend exploded, shouting back, slamming his own fist on the table. And afterward, he felt broken. He said, I became the anger. I wasn't me anymore. And isn't that how it feels? When sadness, fear, or rage rises up, we confuse it with who we are. We say, I am angry. I am afraid. I am depressed. But here's what Buddhism teaches. You are not your storm. You are the sky that holds the storm. Think of your emotions as passing clouds. They may look dark, heavy, endless, but they always move. The sky never disappears. The clouds do. When you learn to step back and simply observe your anger, your fear, your sadness, something incredible happens. You stop being controlled by them. The freedom lies in that small pause, that breath, that single moment when you say, I see this emotion. I feel it. But I don't have to become it. Imagine the power of no longer being a puppet of your feelings, but the witness of them. This is not about suppressing. It's not pretending you don't feel pain. It's about seeing the truth. Emotions are temporary visitors, not permanent residents. They knock on your door, but you don't have to let them run your house. Now think about your own life. What emotion tends to control you the most? Anger? Anxiety? Loneliness? If you're brave enough, write just one word in the comments. That word will be your reminder that you are bigger than that feeling. The next time it rises, instead of reacting, try this. Pause. Breathe. Say to yourself, This is just a cloud. It will pass. And you'll notice something shift. The chains of your emotions loosen. The storm no longer defines you. Because the truth is, real freedom isn't found in controlling your emotions. It's found in observing them without being carried away. Principles 3. Sitting with yourself without running away. Have you ever noticed how uncomfortable silence can feel? The moment the room gets quiet, what's the first thing we do? We reach for our phone. We turn on the television. We scroll. We click. We fill the empty space with noise, almost as if silence itself is dangerous. I remember a woman I once spoke with. She said she couldn't fall asleep unless the television was on, because the silence made her feel exposed, vulnerable, alone with her own thoughts. And maybe you felt that too, that urge to escape the stillness, to run from the voice inside. But here's the paradox. The very silence we avoid is the doorway to peace. Buddhism teaches that truth doesn't shout, it whispers. And you can only hear it when the noise fades away. Think of it like sitting at a lake. If the water is constantly stirred by wind or movement, you see nothing but ripples. But when the water is still, suddenly you see reflections. The trees, the sky, even your own face. The mind is the same. In stillness, your soul finally reflects its truth. The problem is, distraction has become our comfort zone. We carry endless music, podcasts, apps, all to avoid the simplest act, sitting quietly with ourselves. But if we always run, how can we ever hear what our heart is trying to say? This is not easy. At first, silence can feel unbearable. The mind races, old fears surface. You might even feel restless, itchy, desperate to grab the phone. But if you stay, if you breathe, if you allow the silence to hold you, something soft begins to emerge. A deeper voice, a wiser voice, the voice of your own soul. So let me ask you, when was the last time you sat in complete silence? No music, no phone, no conversation, just you, your breath, and the present moment. For many of us, the answer is never. Maybe tonight, instead of filling the room with noise, you could try 5 minutes of stillness. Just 5. Notice what rises. Notice what passes. And if you're brave enough, drop the number 5 in the comments as a commitment to yourself to try. Because in the end, silence is not empty. Silence is full of answers, but only for those willing to sit and listen. Principles 4. Embracing pain as a teacher. There's a truth we often run from. Pain is not the enemy. We treat it like a shadow chasing us, something to bury, numb, or ignore. But what if I told you, pain is actually a teacher, a mirror reflecting back the places in us that are still asking to be healed? I once spoke with a man who had lost his job after 20 years. His first reaction was anger, then despair, then blame. He said, "I feel like everything I built has collapsed." For months, he tried to distract himself, hoping the ache would fade. But it didn't. It followed him into every room, every conversation, even into his sleep. Until one day, he stopped running. He sat with the pain, asked it what it wanted to show him. And slowly, he realized it wasn't just about losing a job. It was about his identity, his fear of not being enough, his unspoken need for validation. That realization didn't erase the pain, but it transformed it from a wound into a lesson. Buddhism often compares pain to fire. It burns, yes, but fire can also purify, reshape, and even light the way forward. The question is, do we let the fire consume us, or do we allow it to illuminate us? Think about your own life, the heartbreaks, the betrayals, the failures. Aren't those the very moments that forced you to grow, to change, to discover strength you didn't know you had? Without them, would you be the person you are today? Yet our instinct is always to escape. We binge watch, we overwork, we drown ourselves in noise. Anything but sitting quietly with what hurts. But healing never happens in avoidance. Healing begins the moment we look at pain with courage and say, "What are you here to teach me?" And yes, it's uncomfortable. Sometimes it feels unbearable. But every time you choose to face it rather than flee, you reclaim a piece of your power. You take back the principles of you that was hidden beneath the wound. So let me ask you, is there a pain in your life right now that you've been running from? What if, instead of treating it as an enemy, you welcomed it as a teacher? Just imagine, how might your life shift if you trusted that every scar carries wisdom? If this resonates with you, drop the number 7-inch, the comments, a small reminder that even in suffering, there is a hidden seed of rebirth. And if you know someone who needs this message, maybe share this video with them. Because in the end, pain is not punishment. Pain is a doorway. And if you dare to step through, you may discover not just who you are, but who you are meant to become. Principles 5. Simplifying to clear the mind. Have you ever noticed how a cluttered room makes your mind feel heavy too? It's almost as if the chaos outside reflects the chaos within. And yet, we often keep adding more possessions, more commitments, more noise, believing that somehow more will give us peace. But the truth is, the lighter our life becomes, the brighter our mind shines. I once met a woman who had everything people usually dream of: a big house, expensive clothes, a calendar packed with social events. From the outside, it looked like success. But she confessed to me one evening, "I feel suffocated. It's like I'm living for everyone else, but not for myself." Her turning point came when she chose to simplify. She sold half of her belongings, let go of relationships that drained her, and began saying no to things that weren't aligned with her soul. And you know what? She told me, "For the first time, I can breathe. My mind feels clear." This is the paradox of life. We think happiness comes from addition, but often it comes from subtraction. Every attachment we carry, every toxic relationship, every unnecessary desire acts like stones in a backpack. At first, it doesn't feel too heavy, but over time, those stones weigh us down, and we wonder why walking feels so hard. Imagine this. What would your life look like if you set down even one of those stones today? What if you release the friendship that only brings negativity, or the constant urge to buy things you don't need, or the endless need to prove yourself to others? Can you feel how much lighter your heart would be? Buddhist wisdom reminds us, a still pond reflects the moon, but a muddy pond cannot. When our lives are simple, uncluttered, our inner world becomes clear enough to reflect truth, joy, and peace. And here's the challenge. Simplifying isn't just about cleaning your closet. It's about choosing what truly matters. It's about courage, the courage to let go. Because every time you say no to what drains you, you're actually saying yes to your own freedom. So let me ask you directly, is there one thing, just one, you could release this week that would make your life lighter? If so, write the number 5 in the comments. A quiet commitment to yourself that you're ready to make space for clarity. And maybe share this video with a friend who needs that same reminder. Because in the end, simplicity isn't about living with less. It's about living with more of what truly matters. Principle 6. Learning to walk alone. Have you ever been afraid of being alone? Most of us have. Because society tells us that solitude equals emptiness. That if you're alone, something must be missing. But what if I told you solitude isn't emptiness at all? It's actually sacred space. The very ground where we can meet ourselves again, free from the weight of other people's expectations. I remember a man I once spoke with, a successful entrepreneur surrounded by people always in the spotlight. But late at night when the noise faded, he admitted, "I don't even know who I am without all of this." His entire life was shaped by the pressure to perform, to meet others' demands. And yet, when he finally chose to step back to walk alone for a while, he discovered something priceless. He found clarity. He found peace. He found himself. The truth is, walking alone is not a punishment. It's a practice. When we dare to sit in silence, to eat alone, to take a walk without distraction, we start to see our true reflection. The voices that once told us who we should be begin to fade. And in that quiet space, the voice of our own soul finally becomes loud enough to hear. But let's be honest, solitude is not always comfortable. At first, it can feel like standing in an empty room. The silence feels heavy. The absence of company feels like loss. This is the inner conflict. Principles of us wants to run back to the noise, but a deeper principles knows if we stay, something will shift, and it does. The longer we allow ourselves to be alone, the more we realize we were never truly lonely. We were just waiting to remember who we are. Think of it like this. A seed cannot grow under constant sunlight and noise. It needs darkness, stillness, time, underground. Solitude is that soil. Without it, our roots never deepen. With it, we rise stronger. So let me ask you, when was the last time you allowed yourself to walk alone, without reaching for your phone, without filling the silence? Could you try it? Even just for 1 hour this week? If your answer is yes, type the number 6 in the comments. It's a simple way of saying, I choose to honor my sacred space, and maybe share this with someone who needs the courage to embrace solitude too. Because the moment we stop fearing being alone, we realize something beautiful. Solitude doesn't isolate us. It frees us. It teaches us to belong, first and foremost, to ourselves. Principle 7. Practicing mindfulness instead of multitasking. Have you noticed how proud we often feel when we say, I'm multitasking? We wear it like a badge of honor, answering emails while eating, scrolling our phone while talking to someone, thinking about tomorrow while rushing through today. But here's the truth. When we try to do everything at once, we rarely experience anything fully. I once met a young woman in New York. Her life was the perfect picture of multitasking, constantly moving, always connected, juggling work, family, and social media. But when I asked her what she truly remembered from her week, she paused. She couldn't recall a single moment that felt alive. She said, "It's like I lived 7 days, but I didn't actually live any of them." That silence she carried in her voice, that's the cost of multitasking. Mindfulness asks us to take a different path, to slow down, to be here, not everywhere. Imagine this, eating a simple meal, but actually tasting every bite. Walking to the store, but really noticing the sky, the sound of your steps, the rhythm of your breath. Listening to a friend, not just hearing their words, but feeling their presence. Breathing not as a background activity, but as a doorway to life itself. At first, this practice feels almost impossible. Your mind will resist. Thoughts will race in, pulling you toward your to-do list, your deadlines, your worries. And here is the inner conflict. Principles of you feels guilty for slowing down, while another principles longs for it deeply. This tension is where the real transformation begins. Because every time you return back to the breath, back to the bite of food, back to the sound of the moment you are choosing to live, not just exist. Think about this. If you were told you had only one day left to live, would you want to spend it multitasking? Or would you want to truly feel the warmth of the sun on your face, the laughter of someone you love, the taste of water on your lips? Mindfulness gives us that gift, not someday, but today. So here's a gentle invitation. Try it for just one moment today. Put down the phone when you eat. Breathe deeply before you speak. Walk without rushing. If you're willing to give it a try, type the number 7 in the comments. It's a small reminder. I choose presence. And maybe share this video with someone who's been caught in the storm of multitasking, just like all of us. Because in the end, mindfulness doesn't add more to your life. It deepens what's already here. Every step, every breath, every heartbeat becomes a chance to truly live. Principles 8. Compassion for yourself. There's a quiet truth that many of us carry but rarely speak aloud. We are often far kinder to strangers than we are to ourselves. Think about it. If a friend came to you, heartbroken after a mistake, you'd probably say, "It's okay. You're human. You'll grow from this." But when it's you who stumbles, the voice inside often sounds harsher. You failed again. You're not enough. Why do we treat ourselves like enemies when what we truly need is a friend? I remember a man who once shared his story with me. On the outside, he was successful, great career, respected in his community. But inside, he lived with constant self-criticism. Every error, every shortcoming was punished by his own thoughts. He told me, "I feel like I'm carrying a judge inside my head, and the verdict is always guilty." That's the weight many of us live with, silently. But here is the gentle shift. Compassion for yourself doesn't mean weakness. It doesn't mean making excuses. It means choosing to heal instead of harm. It means speaking to yourself with the same tenderness you'd offer a child or a friend who is hurting. When you practice this, something remarkable happens. The inner war begins to soften. You stop wasting energy on self-punishment, and that energy turns into growth, courage, and clarity. True transformation is never born out of cruelty. It is born out of compassion. Of course, the conflict inside will resist. A voice may whisper, "If I'm too kind to myself, I'll get lazy." But notice, has judgment ever truly made you stronger, or has it only deepened the wound? What if kindness is not indulgence, but the medicine your soul has been waiting for? So let me ask you, when was the last time you told yourself, "I forgive you, I'm proud of you, you're doing your best"? And how would your life feel if that became your daily practice? Tonight, before you close your eyes, try this simple act. Place your hand over your heart, breathe slowly, and whisper to yourself, "May I be gentle with me." Just try it once. If you're open to practicing, type the number 8" the comments below. Think of it as a promise, a soft reminder that you deserve the same compassion you freely give to others. And maybe share this with someone who needs that reminder today. Because the truth is, compassion for yourself is not the end of your healing journey. It is the beginning. Principles 9. Accept what cannot be changed. Act when you can. There's a story I once heard about a woman who spent years replaying one single moment of her past. It was something she could never undo. But every day she fought against it, asking, "Why me? And what if?" And the more she struggled, the heavier it became, like carrying a stone that only grew larger with time. We all know this feeling, don't we? That silent battle inside, wishing reality was different. Maybe it's a loss we didn't choose. Maybe it's a mistake we can't erase. Maybe it's simply the truth of aging, of change, of time moving forward. The mind resists, the heart aches. But here's the wisdom. Acceptance is not surrender. It's not giving up. Acceptance is the moment we stop wrestling with what already is. Imagine standing in front of a river. You can scream at the current, demand it flows the other way, but the river will not turn back. It moves forward, always. The moment you stop fighting it, you begin to see. You can swim, you can float, you can even cross to the other side. That's what acceptance does. It frees your energy from resistance to response, from pain to possibility. The woman in the story? One day she whispered to herself, "This happened. I cannot change it, but I can choose what happens next." That was the beginning of her healing. Not erasing the past, but learning to walk with it, lighter, clearer, ready to act where action was possible. Here's the paradox. Only when we accept reality as it is do we finally see the doors that are still open. Without acceptance, we're blind, caught in the storm of should have and could have. With acceptance, the fog clears, and then action becomes wise, not desperate. So let me ask you, what is one thing in your life you've been fighting that deep down you know cannot be changed? And what new action might become possible if you chose to stop fighting and start flowing with it? If these words stir something in you, type the number 9", the comments, like a small reminder to yourself. I choose acceptance, and I choose action where I can. And maybe share this with someone you love, someone still carrying their own stone. Because in the end, acceptance is not the end of growth. It is the soil from which real change begins. Principles 10. Breaking the loop of old thoughts. There's a man I once met who told me something haunting. Every morning, he'd wake up and hear the same voice in his head. "You're not enough. You'll never change. Why even try?" Those words weren't new. They were echoes from years ago, spoken by others, but now repeated by himself. And over time, those whispers hardened into walls. Walls that trapped him, kept him small, kept him afraid. Maybe you know what that feels like. A thought that returns again and again until it feels like truth. I'm too late. I'm too broken. I'm not smart enough. These thoughts become like chains, invisible but heavy. And when we live inside them long enough, they shape the way we see the world, and even worse, the way we see ourselves. But here's the wisdom. A thought is not the truth. It's only a visitor. And like any visitor, you have the power to decide whether it stays or leaves. The first step is to notice it, catch the loop as it plays in your mind. The second step, to challenge it. Ask yourself, is this really true? Who would I be without this belief? And then replace it. Plant a new thought, one rooted in compassion, in possibility. The man I told you about? One day he stood in front of a mirror and whispered something different. Instead of, "I'm not enough," he said, "I am learning, I am growing, and I am worthy." At first, it felt fake, like he was lying to himself. But with time, that new thought grew roots, and slowly, the old loop lost its power. His life didn't transform in one moment, it transformed one thought at a time. So, let me ask you, what is the thought that has been looping in your mind over and over again like a broken record? And what new truth would you choose to plant in its place? If this speaks to you, type the number 10 in the comments, like a promise to yourself. I'm ready to break the loop. And maybe share this with someone who's been trapped in their own cycle of thoughts, so they remember freedom begins inside the mind. Because in the end, we don't have to be prisoners of our thoughts. We can be the gardeners of them. And every new seed we plant has the power to grow into a life we never thought possible. Principles 11. Returning to the breath. There was a woman I once knew, always rushing from one thing to the next. Her phone buzzing, her calendar full, her mind never silent. She told me one day, "I feel like I can't breathe, like life is pulling me in every direction at once." And maybe you've felt that too. That sense of being caught in a storm where everything demands your attention, except your own heart. But here's the truth we often forget. The breath is always there. Quiet, steady, waiting for us to notice it. The breath is like an anchor holding us steady when the waves of life grow wild. And in the simple act of breathing, consciously, we return home. We return to ourselves. Think about it. Right now, as you're listening, take just one deep breath, in and out. Did you feel it? That tiny shift? It may seem small, but in that one breath, the noise softens, the mind slows, and a doorway to peace quietly opens. The woman I told you about? She began practicing this just one mindful breath whenever she felt overwhelmed. At first, it felt too simple, almost silly. How could breathing change anything? But with time, she realized. The storm around her didn't need to vanish for her to find calm. She could carry her anchor anywhere, into meetings, into traffic, even into sleepless nights. And slowly, life no longer felt like it was dragging her. She was guiding herself, one breath at a time. So let me ask you, when was the last time you truly breathed, not out of habit, but with awareness, with gratitude? How different would your day feel if, instead of drowning in the rush, you returned to the breath, again and again? If this message touches you, type the number 11 in the comments, like a gentle reminder to yourself. I choose peace, right here, right now. And maybe share this with someone who needs an anchor today. Because the breath is more than air moving in and out. It is life itself. It is the silent companion that never leaves you. And sometimes, one mindful breath is all it takes to find your way back to balance, back to presence, back to peace. Principles 12. Nurturing gratitude. There was a man who once told me, "No matter how much I achieve, I always feel like it's never enough." Maybe you know that feeling too. The house is good, but it could be bigger. The job is fine, but it could pay more. The love is there, but it could be deeper. And so the heart keeps chasing, always hungry, never satisfied. But here's the shift that changes everything: gratitude. Gratitude transforms what we have into enough. It turns the ordinary into extraordinary. Imagine sitting down for a simple meal, not a fancy dinner, just warm soup and bread. If you pause, smile, and say, "Thank you," suddenly, that meal isn't just food. It becomes nourishment. It becomes love. The same is true for a night's rest, for a kind word from a friend, for the presence of someone you love, even if they're sitting quietly beside you, saying nothing at all. Gratitude lifts these small, overlooked moments and reveals their hidden gold. The man I told you about, he began a simple practice. Every night, before closing his eyes, he would write down 3 things he was grateful for. Some nights, it was big things: his health, his children's laughter. Other nights, it was small: the smell of fresh coffee, the warmth of sunlight through the window, and slowly, something shifted. He no longer woke up feeling empty. The weight of not enough began to dissolve. He started to see that life had already been generous. He just hadn't been looking. And maybe this is what we all need to ask ourselves. Are we living in lack, or are we seeing the abundance that's already here? So let me ask you now, what is one small thing you're grateful for today? Comment the word thanks, or even the number 12, and let it be a reminder. Your heart already holds more than enough. And if you share this message, maybe it becomes the spark of gratitude for someone else who's forgotten how rich their life already is. Gratitude is not about ignoring what's hard. It's about remembering that even in the hardest seasons, there is still something worth holding close. A breath, a smile, a moment. And when we nurture gratitude, we stop living from a place of scarcity. We start living from a place of wholeness. Because in truth, gratitude doesn't just change how we see life. It changes how we live it. Principles 13. Embracing impermanence. There was once a woman who held on to everything. Every memory, every hurt, every success. She feared that if she let go, life would slip through her fingers. But the harder she clung, the heavier her heart became. And maybe you felt this too. The joy you want to last forever. The pain you wish would disappear. Yet life doesn't ask our permission to change. Seasons turn. Children grow. Friendships shift. The body ages. Everything rises, and everything passes. This truth can feel painful at first, but it's also the key to freedom. The Buddha once said, "All conditioned things are impermanent." When we really see this, we begin to loosen our grip. Imagine holding a flower. You know it won't bloom forever. But isn't its beauty even more precious because of that? The same is true for every smile, every sunset, every breath we take. I once met an old man who told me, "When my wife passed away, I realized I had spent years worrying about losing her instead of cherishing the days I had with her." His words struck me deeply. They remind us that clinging to permanence steals the sweetness of the present moment. So, how do we live differently? We practice embracing impermanence, not as something to fear, but as a teacher. It whispers, "Don't take today for granted. This moment will never come again." When we remember that, fear softens, gratitude grows, and we find ourselves tasting life more fully, whether it's joy or sorrow. Here's a gentle challenge. Tonight, when you reflect on your day, ask yourself, what moment would I have missed if I had been too busy clinging, too distracted by fear? Write it down. Let it remind you that impermanence is not an enemy. It's an invitation to live deeply. And if this message resonates, type the word flow or simply the number 13 in the comments. Let it be a way of saying, I choose to live awake, not asleep. And if you share this with someone, maybe it helps them ease their own grip on life, just enough to smile again. Impermanence doesn't take away life's value, it multiplies it. Because once we see that nothing lasts forever, we finally begin to live as if every moment matters. Ending. When we look back at these 13 principles, we see they're not just teachings to memorize. They're invitations. Invitations to live, to breathe, to return home to ourselves. Think about it. Every step of this journey, letting go of control, sitting quietly with your own heart, welcoming pain instead of running from it, simplifying the weight of life, walking alone but not lonely, choosing mindfulness, practicing compassion, remembering gratitude, and returning to the breath. None of it is meant to change you into someone else. It's meant to bring you back to your true nature, back to the freedom that was always there, waiting beneath the noise. And maybe you felt it for just a moment. That clarity when the mind goes quiet. That peace when you finally stop grasping for more. That tenderness when you realize even your suffering has its place. That is the taste of the present moment. That is the life we keep forgetting to live. I want you to imagine this. If today were your last day, how would you walk through it? Would you rush, complain, cling? Or would you notice the sky, the laughter of someone you love, the miracle of a single breath? This path is not about becoming perfect. It's about remembering what matters before it's too late. And here's the beautiful paradox. When we stop trying so hard to control life, life flows with a grace we could never have forced. The fear softens, the heart opens, and suddenly, ordinary moments shine with extraordinary light. So I ask you, which of these 13 principles spoke to you most deeply? If one of them touched your heart, let it be your companion this week. And if you feel like sharing, write the number of that principle in the comments. It might be the reminder someone else needs to see tonight. And maybe as you listen now, there's someone you're thinking about, a friend, a brother, a mother, someone who could use a gentle reminder to pause, to breathe, to come home to themselves. If so, send this video their way. A small act of kindness can ripple farther than we imagine. Because, in the end, this isn't about following rules. It's about living awake, living free, living whole, right here, right now. So take one breath with me. In and out. That's it. You've already arrived.